Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, Connor on Chain. So, this video, I want to cover a broad range of different coins in different narratives from AI, gaming, meme coins, because basically every single narrative, every single coin in every narrative is literally back to like 2023 lows. Again, not every single coin, but a lot of them are. They are on unbelievable discounts right now, and if you believe going forward that we still have a ton of upside to go in the next 6 to 12 months, then this is going to be the time to pay attention to a lot of gems. I'm not necessarily brand new coins. Like, even in my video yesterday, I covered a couple new launches. It was not meant by any means to be any sort of buy signal, because again, new launches are honestly a completely different way you have to look at investing than looking for long-term accumulation bags. That's what I like to call them. But right now, I do want to cover a ton of different altcoins that I think still have a ton of potential going forward. If and when narrative flips, entire sentiment flips bullish, narratives start to catch a bid. If a gaming catalyst appears out of nowhere and gaming coins start getting insanely bullish, I just want to cover a bunch of different stuff, so let's jump into it. So I'm going to cover some AI coins first. The first one I do want to talk about is SETI. Ticker is CETI. So shout out to someone in our Discord. They actually initially brought this to my attention a while ago. I think back in April or May, but I really started to look into it, I think back in June or July. So SETI to me is it's kind of a combination of, it's like, well, GPU AI related, play in this market. But I think in combination with the fact that they are kind of under the Tau or BitTensor umbrella, it's almost like a Tau or BitTensor beta play. And being AI related, kind of literally in the ecosystem of BitTensor, which BitTensor is a powerhouse AI coin in and of itself, right? But I think for this one to eventually go on a massive run, I think easily will happen. They also have a doxed team. They're very, what do you want to say? What do I call it? I don't want to say vocal, but, I feel like their team is, constantly like transparent and delivering pretty well, especially on social media. But again, the thing with this right now is you'd want to bet on the fact that when AI coins come back, that this will definitely have a massive run. That does not mean at the current level, current time, it doesn't mean that there isn't more downside, because more than likely there probably will be. So before you just start, aping anything, again, this is not meant to be a buy signal video by any means. I'm not a financial advisor. Please do your own research when looking at certain coins. But I just like to bring, very strong undervalued coins, to your attention. So, again, SETI here I think looks very good. And, in my opinion, a lot of these coins, guys, you got to treat it as just a long-term accumulation, right? As if you're buying into a coin and you're expecting it to do a 2-3x, in a week or two. I feel like that's kind of the wrong mindset when you're accumulating coins right now, because for me, let's say you've been accumulating SETI, for the last 3 months, right? What you're kind of saying to yourself is that you are betting that in the near future, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, that whatever levels you are adding to, week after week, month by month, if you're buying here, that is what accumulation is. This is somewhat an accumulation range, anywhere between like 80 cents to $2, right? You are betting that at some point, SETI, once it picks up, once AI hype picks up, maybe BitTensor as an entire AI eco narrative picks up, right? And then we have BitTensor beta plays pick up and absolutely go on a tear, right? You're betting that no matter where you're buying here, price is going to be a lot higher at some point, whether it is in November, it finally hits $2, $3, $4, and actually starts a real run, right? That's kind of like when it comes to accumulating, real strong gems in the space. That's like kind of how you have to think about betting on certain coins. You got to play the long-term game. I feel like with most of your portfolio, you don't have to jump into high risk stuff. And I consider this still high risk because again, it's 20 million in market cap. Sentiment is at a literal all-time low. But this is the time to make those calculated risks, right? I'd recommend anyone to be jumping into the market now, potentially getting a great, huge run if they just hold for a while, than to be buying back when Bitcoin's back at 75, 80K, 85K, right? At that point, you've already missed probably the the chunk of any and every move in the market. At that point, I guarantee most altcoins that you've probably been looking at to add have already done a 2x, 3, 4, 5. From just that point of the lows that we're sitting at here, for Bitcoin just barely breaking above its all-time high, right? So that is kind of the risk to reward you got to play in this market, especially right now at current levels with everything, But the other factor too is a lot of charts don't look like this, A lot of charts literally just have gone up, down, and they just continue to go like this, right? They continue to die out, which most of those charts, it's definitely a lot more higher risk with charts like that, right? But same thing, you're basically betting that whatever project that you're watching, that you're buying into, is going to eventually be a lot higher than it is right now, based on its team, based on the fundamentals, based on, whatever pumpamentals it has, whatever hype it's got, right? But outside of that, SETI, in my opinion, looks very good for an AI play. A 20 million AI GPU play with the Docs team, kind of under the BitTensor umbrella. If and when that does become another major narrative, which at some point it did, months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. I remember like BitTensor beta plays were kind of a narrative for about maybe a couple of weeks. But outside of that, SETI is one that I think just looks very strong for what it is right now. But again, still would be a high risk play. Keep that in mind. LNQ is another AI play. I've been talking about this for months. Initially, I called this, I don't know what the market cap was. I think like 3 million. I think it was on this dip here. Either 0.028, 0.03, 0.05, somewhere right here on this dip. And like I said, this coin has been holding up unbelievably well. Probably one of the best coins as far as, having the chart being held up through this entire bearish sentiment. I don't even know how it's possible, but still, chart is very good. I'd still consider it fairly bullish. On a short time frame, though, keep in mind, again, in a sentiment like this, even if a chart looks this good, until we really finally flip bullish, get bullish like that, there is a good chance that we could see the support get broken. That's why also it's like keep in mind too, because you could also wait for a lot of these coins if you do like them. Wait for the sentiment to flip a little bit more bullish, almost like a little bit more confirmation. Even if the coin's up a little bit higher, at least going forward that you feel like the market's a lot more bullish at the time. So it's going to be more primed for these AI coins, let's say, to start going up. Rather than taking the risk of jumping into something now and watching it, dump another 10, 20, 30%, for some reason if we continue to go down, which is entirely possible, right? LNQ though, not too bad. The tokenomics are pretty good. They're not too bad, but the circulating is definitely, it's not big, fairly small, but I think still this has a ton of upside. I love I'm frozen here, but I'm not going to get too much into the fundamentals with this. I'm going to drop a video at some point, whether I already put it and linked it above or somewhere in the next couple minutes here. I'm going to put a link to the video that I dropped talking about a bunch of AI coins, I think 4 or 5 that, I still have a ton of conviction in, that have a ton of potential. And I cover these 2 coins, that I just brought up a little bit more in depth. And another one too is FLT. FLT was the third one that I covered in that video. FLT, in my opinion, is still a very strong AI coin. This one specifically, very, very small circulating supply, but their tokenomics are fairly strong in a sense where there will not be any unlocks until, at some point in early to mid 2025. And at that point, I would hope by then, we should already see AI coins, taking off like crazy, right? So as far as in the short term, before we start to see, another real run, tokenomics are, I think, very strong. They're fine. They're not going to do anything. There's not going to be insane sell pressure on the market. But this is FLT. It's cloudless computing AI Fluence Deepin platform. So it's pretty interesting. I think in the video as well, I cover it a little bit more in depth too. But same thing, I thought it bottomed out here and it continues to dump. I thought it bottomed here and it's flat, it continues. This is a patience game with this one, I like to see, before I even think about jumping into a lot of these, I like to see moves like this when there's a heavy push to the upside. Because, a lot of people, they FOMO in when they see this. But this is usually a sign where, attention and hype is starting to come back into a project. And then the best thing to do is wait for it to come back down. The push could do a 2 or 3x from the lows, right? But still, wait for it to retrace from any sort of pump if you're looking at a project that's bottomed out, because that's just going to be a clear sign to potentially enter and just start really accumulating and, topping up your accumulation bags, right? Like, let's say if it did something like this, had a huge pump, trended and then came back down, if it had a chart, like something like this, right? Like, this would be pretty good to see, right? It would pull a pretty good move from the lows, and eventually it's going to come back down a little bit. That's going to be somewhat where your entry is. Because again, it's going to be clear now that, the sentiment has flipped bullish. It's clear that attention is finally coming onto this certain project, whatever it is. There's hundreds of projects with charts like this. But again, most of them look like this because their tokenomics are absolute garbage. But again, with FLT, all their tokenomics look fine. They look good. There will not be unlocks for a long time. So those are some AI coins, and that's already at 10 million. So that's very, very undervalued currently. That easily could do, again, I don't want to give a full price prediction, but 3 to 5x from the lows would be, at a minimum, a solid move that I could see once AI flips bullish again. Once utility comes back into play, once the market finally gets over this downtrend, So we got a bunch of random ones too. CORPO is another gaming token. I've been watching this one since launch. The main thing I like about CORPO is kind of like the games that they got going on. Their tokenomics are not great. And this chart actually looks terrible, I can't even lie. But, it's doing the same exact thing that most tokens are going to do. I think, CORPO, they're making 2 really strong games. Very strong team. Similar, I don't know. I think the risk to reward is definitely there on it now. But I think when gaming starts to pump, something like this, regardless of tokenomics, regardless of anything, is going to pump like crazy. Especially the fact that they have 2 very good games literally in development right now. Yeah, I think the main thing that I don't like is the tokenomics with this, which, again, that's hence why a lot of the, sell pressure just continues, but 90% of the market has done this for 6 months, guys, So I don't blame any single coin for, dumping, insanely hard. It's just, unfortunately, the market has just decided to nuke for 7 months straight. But, on top of that, when you got bad tokenomics, a lot of people just sell everything in one clip. Early investors, seed investors, they're trying to sell for a little bit of a loss, or if they still have some sort of gains from their pre-sale entry, they're trying to sell that. And whatever else, team constantly selling tokens for whatever reason, if they need it for development, whatever the reasons are, right? But Moontropica is still a great gaming pick, in my opinion, going forward. I would still consider it a higher risk, just like CORPO. I'd consider it a very high risk coin currently. But again, the opportunity risk to reward is there. Same thing with Moontropica here. I think it's very strong. I mean, it had a nice bounce and it's all the way back down now. So at this point, we're probably going to see this continue to trend even lower and lower. I think until we do see everything really pick up again. But in my opinion, even just seeing how a pretty good recovery from the lows, especially when gaming is still not even hype like that, to me this kind of signals that this is probably going to have a really good explosion once the hype comes back. But for me, I really like this project. Super cool project. So that is Moontropica. Same thing. I'm gonna link above a video where I cover Moontropica and Warped mainly. Warped games, absolutely love. Warped is down very bad though. The chart has been going down significantly. But again, same thing. This market's brutal right now, right? But I still expect at some point, their game is starting to look very good as far as what they've been developing all the way since December when I started covering them, talking about them. Again, this chart has just been sideways. I do believe once gaming really does come into play, becomes a forefront narrative again, whether it's in 2 months or 7 months, whatever it takes, I really like Warped. I think it still has a ton of potential. Still one of the most slept on, gaming projects, I think, in the entire space right now. It's such a strong team behind this. It's not like this crazy, massive team, smaller team, that are hyper focused on, delivering. I think it's just a powerhouse of a gaming play, even though the chart is obviously not showing that currently. So that's Warped. And another one too is Soon. So I'm gonna cut this video after. I'm gonna cover a couple meme coins as well in a minute. But we got Soonverse here. Soonverse, very strong micro cap gaming coin. Normally I don't want to be covering a ton of micro caps left and right, but Soonverse I think is easily in a strong accumulation area. This is probably going to have a massive explosion once gaming picks up. A coin like this, guys, is something where I could see pulling a minimum 20, 30, 40x from the lows. If you ever heard of Soonverse before it had this initial pump, which this here doesn't show the full chart, but it ended up pulling, if you got in from the lows, which I know probably most people did not, including myself, I didn't. It pulled a minimum 20 to 40x, if not more. From the lows, it was all the way down to 0.01, 0.02, almost kind of where price is now, but a little bit lower. And you can see where it ended up running to 3 cents, 4 cents, 4.5 cents. Depending on where you got in, you could have made a huge move if you accumulated at the literal bottom, right? That is where Soonverse is right now. Again, extremely, extremely high risk play. But this is kind of like my dark horse micro cap gaming play. It has been all the way since literally when it pumped back here, and I started adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. It's very micro cap gaming play, but they do get a lot coming. And so as far as meme coins, of course, Mog, Retardio, Mumu, my top 3, I continue to hold them. I literally do not care what the price does, because I know that they are going so much higher from here. As MOG, is down around 60-70% now from the lows. So that's, I think MOG is legitimately at one of the best accumulation opportunities for the rest of the cycle. I bought more a few weeks ago when it had that, massive nuke. I literally continue to add to MOG, you know, and I probably will continue to add if it continues to go down. So that is literally my top conviction coin for the cycle, not even just a narrative. But anyways, lock-in chart looks very good here. Literally just sitting in its accumulation range. I think in between about, I don't know, what's 0.0. Yeah, so this kind of price does reflect the market cap a little bit. So you can see 0.0116, 11.6 million. So in between around 6 million to about 20 million, I would say is a fair accumulation range for lock-in. And if you're wondering what these drawings are, this is kind of how I read a lot of meme coins. And mainly a lot of meme coins and new launches, they end up pulling this. Because for a long time, a coin will sit in a hype phase where it's consistently just making up-only moves. Higher highs, higher lows, until it doesn't, until it dumps. It completely kills any and all of the bullish momentum it had, and then it just goes back to trending. And if it's a very strong coin, it will trend in an accumulation area for a while and eventually start another massive run from this accumulation zone. Like lock-in might do something like this, right? It'll bounce, maybe it has a huge rally from the lows, another dump, into a huge run. Maybe it does, maybe it just bounces up, comes back again, little rally, bounce, it starts slowly trending up into November, December, and then eventually has a giga pump, At some point, lock-in, I think, will come back. I think overall it's a very strong meme coin at the time being. Another one that I really like is Aura. This is down. I think it's down further than I probably would have expected. It's actually good to see that it's up right now. But I think this is going to be somewhat, I was going to say somewhat bottomed out, but this, I assumed it bottomed out here. But it looks like the accumulation range would then be somewhere in between 4 million to about 10 to 15 million. So again, this is still making like lower lows, lower highs. You can kind of see it here. So we might have a push up if it bounces. If we can see like a clear bounce into a literal beginning of a upwards move, I would say that this would be a clear accumulation area going forward. Even if it bounces around, I think this has a ton of potential as well. Initially, like I watched this coin go all the way down here. I think I bought it. Initially, when I first found it, it was at 800K. Sold it for a literal loss. Like, tell me how bad of an L that is. You can literally roast me in the comments. But ended up, pulling just sideways for a while into a huge, huge hype. Basically the hype wave. This entire run was kind of its, hype phase. But obviously when a coin goes up this hard, this quickly, it's got to have a massive, massive correction, right? Nothing is just going to continue up only forever. But this is Aura. Again, ton of opportunity with this coin here. And I think just over time, this is going to find a bottom, find its full accumulation area, and this will recover. Aura is one of the most common words right now used, with the younger generation, TikTok, people on TikTok, This is a top tier culture coin, in my opinion, going forward. But again, price might not show it right now because it looks really bad, but it's just patience with a lot of these coins. I'm trying to think of one more. Lock-in. I covered Inu on the channel, which is another, dog coin. I really like that still. I think that has a ton of potential. I'm not going to cover it here because I don't want to cover too many micro caps, but Michi still, I've a ton of belief in Michi. I'm honestly just shocked that it has not made another high. Like the mind share on this cat coin is legitimately undeniable. You know, I mean, it's basically back on support, but I mean, now it's going to be testing the support like 3 or 4 times. So this is going to be dangerous. It could easily start to break through, go a little lower, maybe find support at like 5 cents. Nah, I don't think it's going to go that low. Maybe it does. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But in my opinion, this does look like it is bottomed, and it has been bottomed. Again, this community is very, very strong. Probably one of the strongest animal coin communities that I've seen on Twitter to date. So at some point, I know Michi for a fact. At some point, it's gonna go to $1. You know, that's at a minimum, in my personal opinion. But and maybe 80 cents, $1. Maybe it blows way past that. But I think, and to see another massive leg up from Michi is definitely not out of the cards. I think it will happen at some point, but it's just going to be patience, accumulation, and, you know, just shit posting on Twitter. You know, that's literally what it takes, I swear. But you know, outside of that, I'm just covering a bunch of meme coins, AI coins, gaming, some random stuff in this video, guys. You know, kind of just updating everyone on certain coins and, you know, their potential. But outside of that, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.